Imagine a museum unlike any other. A place where every room displays a perfect life, perfect routines, perfect homes, perfect careers, perfect relationships, perfect wealth. At first, every room feels inspiring. But something strange happens as you walk through this museum. The more perfect lives you see, the more unfinished your own life begins to feel. And that feeling is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, a subtle pressure, a small shame, a low-grade anxiety you cannot fully explain. Welcome to the Museum of Perfect Lives. For most of human history, comparison was limited. People compared themselves to neighbors, friends, co-workers, maybe a few successful people nearby. The circle was small. Today, that circle has expanded beyond anything our brains evolved to handle. On a typical day, a person might see hundreds of curated lives online. A perfect morning routine, a perfect home, a perfect career, a perfect relationship, a perfect lifestyle. None of these images are necessarily false, but they are selected moments, highlights, and when the highlights of millions of lives appear in the same place, they begin to feel like the standard. This is the comparison economy, a world where success is not only pursued, it is constantly displayed, and the result is subtle, emotional, and often expensive. Because many people are no longer comparing real lives to real lives, they are comparing their everyday moments to a museum of perfect exhibits. And that museum never closes. Today, we are going to walk through 7 rooms inside that museum. Each one reveals a paradox that quietly shapes how people feel about money, self-worth, and success. Room 1. The perfect morning. Inside the first room, the day begins before sunrise. A person wakes up at 5. They stretch, they journal, they exercise, they prepare a healthy breakfast. They begin focused work in a calm, sunlit room. At first, this feels inspiring, and in many ways it is. Healthy routines can genuinely improve life, but the exhibit never shows the messy mornings. The alarm clock snoozed 3 times, the stressful commute, the parent rushing to get children ready, the exhausted morning after a difficult night. It shows only the highlight version. See this routine once and it may feel motivating. See it 1,000 times and something changes. An ordinary morning starts to feel like failure. Someone who wakes up at 7 may begin to feel behind. Someone who checks their phone before coffee may feel weak or undisciplined, even though their life may still be completely normal. This is the first paradox. What begins as inspiration can quietly become pressure. Not because the routine is fake, but because repetition makes it feel like the norm. The museum does not lie, it selects, and that is enough to change perception. Room 2. The perfect apartment. The second room is quiet. Minimalist furniture, warm lighting, a tidy desk beside a large window, a plant on the table, a calm, polished atmosphere. This room does not just show a home, it shows a lifestyle. A beautiful apartment can suggest stability, taste, adulthood, even success. But something important is missing. The exhibit shows the appearance of financial success. It does not show the structure behind it. Imagine 2 people with apartments that look almost identical. One built that space slowly. They budgeted, carefully saved consistently, and bought things over time. The other created the same look quickly: higher rent, more impulse purchases, more reliance on credit. From the outside, the rooms look the same. Financially, they are completely different, and that reveals the paradox. Today, visual wealth is easier to create than financial stability. That matters because comparison does not always lead people to spend for pleasure. Sometimes it leads them to spend for alignment. Not because they truly need a better chair, a nicer lamp, or a more expensive neighborhood, but because they want relief. Relief from the discomfort of comparison. That is how small upgrades accumulate. A better desk, a slightly nicer apartment, a more polished aesthetic. Individually, each purchase feels reasonable. Together, they can create a life that quietly costs more than it should. The room still looks calm, but savings may be thinner, flexibility may be shrinking, and peace of mind may become more dependent on keeping the image intact. Room 3. The perfect career. The third room is brighter and louder. This room is filled with celebrations. A startup launch, a career milestone, a flexible life by the ocean, a headline about someone who left one path and found success on another. Success stories are powerful. They attract attention. They spark imagination. They create hope. But the museum presents them in a very specific way. It shows the breakthrough. Not the years of uncertainty before it, not the failed attempts, not the long stretches where nothing impressive seemed to be happening. It collects only the final chapter, and when many rare success stories appear side by side, the rare begins to feel common. A stable job may suddenly feel unremarkable. A slow career path may feel like falling behind, even though those paths are still normal in real life. This is the paradox. The more exceptional outcomes we see, the more ordinary progress can feel inadequate. And this does not only affect mood, it can affect money decisions. Once someone feels behind, they may become more vulnerable to rushed moves, overspending to feel more successful, chasing visible progress instead of stable progress, trying to close an emotional gap with financial behavior. Again, the museum does not need to lie. It only needs to display enough rare victories in one place. Room 4. The perfect relationship. The fourth room feels warmer. Photographs fill the walls. A couple laughing at dinner, walking on a beach at sunset, celebrating a milestone, sharing a bright, intimate moment. At first, this room feels comforting, but the pattern is familiar. The museum shows the highlights, not the ordinary hours in between, not the small disagreements, not the tired evenings, not the patience required in real long-term relationships. It shows the brightest frames, and when people see enough of those frames, expectations begin to shift. A peaceful relationship may start to feel uneventful. A stable life together may feel less impressive, even though trust and stability are often the true foundations of happiness. There is a financial layer here too. Relationships often create visible spending pressure. Trips, celebrations, gifts, milestones performed in public. None of these things are automatically wrong, but inside the museum, those moments accumulate, and over time they can quietly redefine what love is supposed to look like. That can turn emotional pressure into financial pressure. A celebration becomes more expensive. A vacation becomes more performative. A normal relationship begins to feel less visible and therefore less valuable. Room 5. The perfect wealth. The fifth room is the brightest of all. A luxury car, a modern home, beautiful vacations, spacious living rooms, flexible lifestyles. Money carries powerful meaning. Security, freedom, opportunity, recognition. But this room reveals one of the most important paradoxes in the museum. It does not display wealth. It displays visible wealth. And visible wealth is not the same as financial stability. Two people may earn similar incomes. One quietly saves, builds an emergency fund, and grows slowly. The other spends more on visible upgrades. From the outside, the second life may look more successful, but the long-term financial picture may be weaker. The museum rarely shows the invisible parts of wealth: savings, debt levels, resilience during hard times, long-term financial peace. Those things do not photograph well. Instead, the museum shows symbols: the car, the trip, the house, the aesthetic of abundance. And over time, these symbols reshape expectations. A person may earn more money than ever before and still feel financially behind. Not because their life is worse, but because the standard around them keeps rising. That is one of the strangest emotional realities of modern money. You can be doing better and still feel like you are losing. And when that feeling deepens, it can change behavior. More lifestyle inflation, less patience, less satisfaction, more urgency to look successful instead of becoming stable. Room 6. The perfect productivity. The sixth room contains no luxury, no travel, no homes. Only systems, calendars, schedules, habit trackers, perfectly optimized days. Wake up at 5. Exercise, deep work, healthy meals, reading, tracking, reflection. Everything is organized. Every hour has a purpose. At first, this room feels admirable, and structure really can improve life. But, once again, the museum shows only one side. It shows the optimized version. Not the disrupted days, not the low-energy afternoons, not the moments when life becomes messy and unpredictable. And after enough exposure, a dangerous idea can form. That every hour should be productive, that every moment should justify itself, that rest must be earned. This is the paradox. The more life becomes a project to optimize, the easier it becomes to forget that life is also something to experience. Sometimes this becomes financial too. A person who feels chronically behind may start buying productivity, more apps, more tools, more courses, more systems. Always searching for the setup that will finally make life feel under control. Sometimes that spending looks small, but the pattern can become endless. Because when productivity becomes identity, improvement starts to feel urgent, and urgency is expensive. Room 7. The perfect life. The final room is the largest, and it contains everything. The perfect morning, the perfect apartment, the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect wealth, the perfect productivity, all at once. And here, the deepest paradox appears, because now the visitor is not comparing themselves to one example. They are comparing themselves to all of them at the same time. And when everything becomes visible, the definition of enough begins to disappear. A person may already have a stable job, supportive relationships, a decent home, and improving finances. By many standards, that life is meaningful and successful. But inside this room, the mind begins scanning. Someone wakes up earlier, someone travels more, someone built more, earned more, optimized more. Piece by piece, comparison spreads across every area of life. Not just money, not just work, everything. And success stops feeling like a destination. It becomes a moving target. This is the illusion at the center of the museum. It removes trade-offs. It places the best parts of different lives side by side, and lets the mind combine them into one impossible standard. But real lives contain trade-offs. A demanding career may reduce free time. Frequent travel may reduce long-term savings. A calmer life may look less impressive online. Every real life emphasizes different priorities. The museum hides that, and that is why its version of success feels so complete and so impossible. Climax plus resolution. At the end of the final room, the hallway becomes quiet. No more displays, no more screens, just a simple exit door. And here the truth becomes clear. Nothing in the museum was fake. The routines were real. The homes were real. The careers were real. The relationships were real. The wealth was real. But the museum never showed complete lives. It only showed the most impressive moments of those lives. And when impressive moments are placed side by side, they begin to feel like the standard. That is the hidden trick of the Museum of Perfect Lives. Not deception, selection. A person comparing their full life to those exhibits will almost always feel behind. Not because their life is failing, but because they are comparing the full story of their life to the highlights of many others. Outside the museum, life looks different. Some mornings start late. Some homes are messy. Some careers move slowly. Some relationships grow quietly. Some financial progress happens in ways that no photograph can capture. And yet, those invisible parts of life are often where real stability is built, and this is not just emotional, it shapes spending, saving, lifestyle choices, risk tolerance, and the private definition of success itself. Visitors finally step outside. The air feels quieter, more ordinary, but also more real, because outside the building there are no exhibits, just people. Living imperfect days, making gradual progress, managing money, learning from mistakes, building lives that may never appear in a museum, but still matter deeply to the people living them. Perhaps the real question was never, why does my life not look like those displays? Perhaps the better question is simpler. In a world full of highlights, what does enough actually mean for you? And maybe that is where real peace begins, not in matching every exhibit, but in deciding which rooms no longer get to define your life. Because the answer to that question is something no museum can display.